Welcome into our NFL Draft Player Spotlight. Locked On NFL Draft coverage is presented by Ultimate Football GM. If you think you can run an NFL franchise, test it out. Visit ultimate-gm.com to play Ultimate NFL GM simulation game. Start your dynasty today. I'm your host, Kanani Stevens. Of course, we have Lance Daw from Locked On Kentucky because we are going to talk Will Levis. Lots of quarterbacks in this draft. A lot of people have their guy, their certain opinions. What is it about Will Levis that is different, and what will be the difference maker when it comes to someone selecting him?
Well, I think that the thing that has stood out about Will Levis, since he arrived to Kentucky last year, not this season, but the year prior, is his physical traits. Obviously,
Mhm.
I think a lot of people have compared him physically to Josh Allen. Is he as mobile as Josh Allen? I think that's yet to be decided. I want to see him actually in an NFL system, see what he can do with his legs. In his first year at Kentucky, I mean, that was the comp. He was running around, running through people, running over people. I think that he was really displaying all the physical things that you want to see out of the modern NFL quarterback. Somebody that's big, physical, can take a lot of hits, and can sling the ball downfield with ease. And I think that that's what you're looking at with Will Levis that makes him stand out from guys like Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, is that he's just simply kind of joking here, built different, but I'm serious. He physically is just different from some of these other quarterbacks in this draft. So if NFL team is looking at selecting him, I would say that based on his physical traits alone, they're drafting him because of that potential. Will he ever reach the level mentally and then just quarterbacking wise of a guy like Josh Allen? Again, yet to be decided.
Yeah, he definitely looks like the prototypical NFL quarterback, right? And can he play that part at that level will be the question. Some people feel like this last season has hurt his stock just because of the inconsistencies. Is that a fair judgment? Was some of that injury? How did you kind of see that play out?
Well, it's interesting because just yesterday I was listening back to an episode I had back in May of last year talking about Will Levis, just projecting to what he would be in 2022, and I was discussing a mock draft that had what Levis going at 1, and I was saying back in May, I'm like, listen, he right now is not the best quarterback in next year's draft class. I mean, for Kentucky fans, they may not want to hear that, but that's reality. He's not the best quarterback, even with the first season that he had with the Wildcats under Liam Cohen. I said that we needed to see more consistency throwing the ball. We needed to see better decision making, less turnovers. And there were, I think, a lot of outside factors that really hurt him in 2022, but he didn't help himself. Something that I've continued to say, it's not my analogy, but when you're looking for a quarterback that kind of can help you get out of the mud for your franchise or your college football team, you're looking for somebody to be the actual truck, not the trailer. You don't need him to be the one that's dragging your team down. You need him to be the one pulling your team forward. And even despite the things around him, he still could not do that for Kentucky last year. It was injury. I think it was the offensive line that Kentucky had. It was just absolutely brutal what he was having to deal with back there in terms of pass protection, even against teams like Vanderbilt. It was just blatantly clear. And this offensive line is not getting him anywhere, not doing him any favors whatsoever. And then on top of that, he and a different offensive system just completely fell apart. I think when it
Mhm.
came to just making those consistent type of decisions at the mid-range in the short game with his throws, I think that he's a very athletic thrower. I think that he works very well off balance. But again, you didn't see anybody on this Kentucky staff or this offensive scheme kind of help him improve on what he was struggling at. If anything, it got worse. So I say absolutely it was injury, it was O line, it was scheme, it was setting, but he also didn't help himself. I think that he not only did he not hold that baseline that he had last season or the season prior in 2021, but he got worse himself. And I don't think that was because of the offensive line or the injuries. I think that he just started making worse decisions and became more turnover prone. I mean, it's not the staff's fault that he fumbled a lot more than he did in 2021. I would say
Mhm.
that some of the interceptions that he had last season were definitely his fault. It's just it's simple things. I think I'm not questioning his intelligence. I'm just saying mentally there are some things when it comes to Will Levis's game that still need to be worked out.
And when we talk about that development, obviously, when you go to the next level, there are certain places where you're thrown right into the fire. But is his success going to be dependent on which situation he ends up in and whether or not they have someone that can kind of nurture his talent and help him develop?
Well, to go back to the Josh Allen situation, I would
Yeah.
say absolutely. I mean, it took Allen several years to kind of get to where he
Mhm.
is currently in the NFL, and if Levis is thrown into a situation with a franchise where they're depending on him to be a day one, bucket getter, I guess, just somebody that can go out and help them win football games. I'm going to be honest. I don't think that he's in a spot to do that right now in the stage of his career. So I think he's going to need time, and he's going to need, use that word nurturing, to kind of help him get to a place where he can unlock his potential, because it's there. Like we've said, the physical traits are there. I think that you've seen some very impressive things from him throwing the ball and running the ball as well in his first season with the Wildcats, but he can't get put in the wrong spot. I think that you could say this about a lot of different quarterbacks. Now, there are a couple of quarterbacks in this draft class that I think could probably have some sort of success in any scenario. But Will Levis is one of those guys where it's like, if you don't do the right things with him, if you don't put him in the right spot, he's probably not going to produce for you. And I think the disappointment, the lack of meeting expectations at that point may not be on him. So I think it's up to the right NFL GM, it's up to the right franchise to make the right decisions with this guy.
It's always a tough decision when it comes to trying to get a franchise quarterback. So we will have to keep an eye on things. Locked On Kentucky will have a full wrap of where Levis ends up being drafted once we get through the NFL draft.